Welcome to this special episode of World War II Wayfinder. Today I've travelled to the Swiss Military Museum here in Switzerland to look at a very special restoration project. In this episode, we'll look at the King Tiger that's here in the Swiss Military Museum. I'll take you through some of the features of it and also a little bit of its operational history as well when it served during World War II. So the museum acquired this particular example in the early 2000s, and since then it's undergone a restoration process to take it back to working condition. As you can see, the work is progressing really well, but like a lot of these things, it takes a while. Nothing about this tank is easy. None of the parts are made anymore and haven't been for a very long time. So the work is a very slow, iterative process, but the team here are doing a fantastic job. So one of the most unique features that the team have got here at the moment as part of the restoration project, as you can see from the main hull of the tank, the turret isn't on it. So it means we can actually look inside the turret and get a really unique look at this incredible machine. So this is it. This is inside the turret of the Königstiger. And the work that Team Königstiger have done on the restoration process so far with this is really impressive. And I can't believe that I'm actually stood inside the turret of one of these. It's a really incredible experience to be in here and actually see it all. To give you an idea of the different crew positions in here, we'll start first of all where the commander would sit. And that is here. So this seat could fold down or be folded up as we see here, and there is this backrest here as well. There's also above me the commander's cupola, and in there were vision slots. That would mean that the commander had 360-degree field of vision around his tank so that he could keep an eye on friendly forces and also understand where enemy tanks were located. Just forward of the commander's position is the gunner's position, and this gauge here is of particular interest. This is the turret position indicator, and this would enable the gunner and the commander as well to see exactly where their turret was positioned relative to the position of the hull. And you've got to remember, in combat, when there's a lot going on, there's a lot of sensory overload. To maintain that situational awareness, the gunner's not going to be able to do that. He only has his sight to look through. All his other views to the outside world are completely blocked off. So this gauge here was exceptionally important, and the team here managed to work with other museums, scan originals and then replicate it using 3D metal printing, and now it's here and it will work when the turret is reinstalled on the hull and this tank becomes operational again. Just forward of the turret position indicator was the mounting point for the gun sight. The L71 gun is actually offset from the centre of the turret, and that was to make way for the sight. Here obviously he's got his mounting points at the base, and then these two brackets at the top was where it would also affix to. And that was the view that the gunner would have looking straight out towards their enemy. So now I'm stood in the loader's position, and that was the third crewman that would occupy the turret if the tank was being manned in an operational environment. Some parts of the L71 gun are missing at the moment. They're currently being restored, so there would be less room in here than we currently have. But here, of interest, is where the MG34 would be mounted. Now, the MG34, by the time the King Tiger rolled off the production line, was an older machine gun. Clearly, the MG42 at that point had kind of superseded the manufacture of the MG34 and was now the main machine gun that the German army was using. But for its use in vehicles, the MG34 was still the best option, and that was because of the barrel change. On the MG42, the barrel is pulled out and canted like kind of to 45 degrees to the right, whereas the MG34's barrel is just rolled around and split from the receiver. So it takes up a lot less room to change the barrel and makes it far easier when it's fixed here in an armoured vehicle where there isn't a lot of space. Here we've got the spent link chute, and that would come down. There would be a bag here that would collect those spent links and spent rounds to avoid them fouling up the floor of the tank. One other feature as well on the loader's side was this device, and this is for launching mortars, spring meaning and other countermeasures that the tank commander could order to be fired out if his tank was under threat. And it's really cool to see that that is still here, present on this tank. Another interesting piece that the team here had to manufacture was the ventilation fan. This was completely missing when they got the tank, but the intricate design of the fan as well was a real challenge to make, but they've managed to recreate it, and that is now fixed firmly in place, and it looks really good. Although it's a small feature of the tank, I personally think from an engineering point of view, it's a really interesting thing that they've managed to recreate, and it definitely helps to just finish off the overall atmosphere of this turret, knowing that they've got that part there and it will be working when the tank is ready to go again. So you can see here, these are the ammo racks. You've got 11 each side, so 22 in total here. There was also other ammo storage in the main hull of the tank. But each one of these shells weighed approximately 20 kilograms. And it was the loader's responsibility to bring these off of the racks as quickly as possible on the commander's orders, get them into the breech of this massive L-71 gun so that the gunner could send it downrange towards its target. And these projectiles, when fired, were fearsome. It was about a 7 kilogram warhead, and it would be traveling up to a maximum muzzle velocity of 1,130 meters per second. And the gun could engage targets out to 3,000 meters comfortably. So it gives you an idea of how far and how fast it could send that shot downrange when the gunner had laid it onto target. So now I'll take you up into the commander's cupola and give you a view from the top of the tank. Now obviously you had to use these step ladders to get up there because there's no other way at the moment, but it will hopefully give you a good idea of the view from the top and what it was like to be a commander of a King Tiger during World War II. And this is it. This is the commander's cupola, and you can see clearly that it's a very impressive place to stand. And I am loving this. This is an amazing experience to be able to stand and actually get the same view as that of a wartime commander in a King Tiger. They're an impressive beast, and the sheer size of the gun and the main turret itself is an incredible thing to see. Part of the incredible KWK-43/L71's recoil system was this, the muzzle brake. Combined with the recoil buffers in the main turret itself, this would help dampen down the blast and that recoil effect on the gun when the shot leaves the end here. So as part of this restoration, there are bits of King Tiger littered all over the place, and it's really cool to see. It's like a giant model kit, and if you're into that sort of thing, then this is an absolute paradise to be in. Here we can see we've got some of the driver's controls with the pedals, and they're all just waiting to go back into the hull and be used properly. This component here, this would ordinarily be mounted inside the turret so that when it's mounted properly and the turret is on the hull itself, this would then help form part of the floor of the turret and of the tank itself. And again, it's looking really, really good. The team are doing excellent work on this, and this will eventually make its way back into the tank. So on the back of the turret then, we can see the ridiculously heavy ammunition loading door. This thing is an absolute beast of a door to try and open, and you can get an idea of how heavy it will be just from the sheer thickness of the material there. So on the side of the tank, at the rear on each side and on the front quarter as well, are these track hangers, and they do exactly what they say on the tin. They are for hanging track on, but they also form another purpose, and that was to also provide a little bit of armour protection to the ammunition storage area that was here on the rear of the turret from any rounds coming in, with that extra track link on there just acting as a little bit more armour. So moving around to the front of the turret, here we've got the port for the MG34. That's the port for the gun barrel there. Obviously you've got the main L71 gun here, and even compared to that of a Tiger 1, which in itself is impressive, the L71 on the Tiger 2 is just a beast of a gun. All right, so let's go and move around to the other side. And here we can see the vision slot there for the gunner's scope. And that means you can see as I mentioned earlier, how offset the main barrel is from the center of the turret itself. Now, one issue that always crops up when King Tigers are discussed, depending on the turret that's on the particular King Tiger itself, is whether it's a Porsche or a Henschel turret. And there isn't really such a thing. Both turrets, the one that was designed for the Porsche chassis and the one that was designed for the Henschel chassis, were made by the German manufacturer Krupp. So both turrets are technically Krupp turrets. They designed and manufactured it. Now, this is the later production term, or production turret, and this is the one that is typically referred to as the Henschel turret. But again, that's just a complete misnomer. It was designed by Krupp, and from the 51st King Tiger onwards, right the way through to the end of their production, these were the turrets used. The first 50, however, used the more rounded turret that gets misnamed as the Porsche turret, and that was because the Porsche design for the hull never went into production, but Krupp had already started to manufacture the turrets. They made 50 out of 100, and so they needed to be used, and therefore that's why you see early King Tigers in France with the more rounded turret instead of the flat-sided one that is typically associated with the King Tiger later on in the war. Now, there were a couple of design faults with that earlier turret as well. Because it was rounded, it could act as a shot trap. Now, a shot trap, for those that don't know, is if a round comes in, it could hit that and then ricochet down into the hull and then penetrate the tank that way. So that's a shot trap, and that needed to be eliminated. And with the slab-sided face of this production turret, that problem was removed. The turret designed for the Porsche chassis as well also had a wider commander's space here on the side of the hull. And that was a very difficult part to manufacture, which caused problems and delays. That problem was then eliminated on the later production turret. So here you can get a size of the ammunition used in the main gun. Now, I'm about 180 in terms of height, 180 centimeters. So you can see just how big these shells are by comparison to my height. And this is the round that was fired from the L71 gun. It's between 7 and 8 kilograms in weight, and to think that this could be traveling at over 1,000 meters per second when it leaves the muzzle of the gun is incredible. Now, the other two crew positions in the tank were the driver and the radio operator, who would also be responsible for the front gun in the hull. And as you can see on this, they are doing a great deal of work in terms of the restoration piece. So at the rear of the vehicle was where the Maybach HL230 P45 V12 engine would sit. And it was a good engine, but at 68.5 tons, the King Tiger was just too heavy for it, combined with the transmission that would often have faults. Although it was a good transmission, again, it just wasn't cut out to deal with the weight of this particular vehicle. And it's interesting, when we look at the HL230 engine made by Maybach, it also powered the Tiger I and the Panther and a number of other German vehicles during World War II. And for those vehicles, it was fine. But for this, it was just too underpowered. The Germans had planned to develop an upgraded version of it that would deliver more power, more torque, and be more capable of shifting the weight of the King Tiger. But obviously the war came to an end before that was able to be implemented. Now, you can clearly see from the work that's going on here at the moment and the work that the team are doing, this is going to be a long process. The Maybach engine and the transmission that they need to refit into this is undergoing restoration elsewhere, and that's just taking a long time. As I said earlier, these aren't made anymore. The parts for them aren't made anymore. So when things break, they have to be machined, and that takes time because you need skilled guys to do the work. And the team here, the work that they're doing is of an exceptionally high standard. But hopefully, within the next few years, this should be up and running. And when it is, it will be great to see it take to the field again. So one design improvement with the King Tiger over that of the Tiger I was the design of the road wheels. Now, on the Tiger I, they were interleaved, which meant there was a lot of difficulties when it came to changing a road wheel or if they had to deal with a track issue. With the Tiger II, they're just overlapping. So it means if you can take one off, you can sort the problem, put it back on, it's okay. Admittedly, if you've got one with one of the wheels back here, yes, you have to take these two off to get to that. But it definitely made it easier for the crews to do maintenance in the field, made it quicker, and that is all the difference that a crew needs when they're under the difficult conditions operating in a remote location at the end of a difficult supply chain. Now, despite all of the problems with the King Tiger, its weight, its transmission, the underpowered engine, the one thing that Germans got right with this was the thickness of the armour, and no King Tiger was knocked out by a frontal shot to the glacis plate. And the reason being is, this was 150 millimeters thick, but it was canted back at a 40-degree angle, which then in real terms meant that the armour was about 190 millimeters thick, and no Allied round could penetrate it. The front of the turret was 180 millimeters thick, and that was canted back at 10 degrees. So again, you can see that the sheer thickness of the armour on this vehicle was like nothing that the Allies had, and even the Soviets. Toward the end of the war, they started to come close. Now, according to the production number of this particular King Tiger, it is believed that it belonged to Schwere Panzerabteilung 506, and it was brought onto the unit strength in September 1944. So there is every chance that this vehicle here could have fought in and around the Arnhem area during Operation Market Garden. So I hope you've all enjoyed this episode of World War II Wayfinder and looking at the Swiss Military Museum's incredible King Tiger restoration project. If you want to find out more details about the museum, the link to them is in the description below, and if you're in the area, I highly recommend a visit here because their collection is vast and it's incredible to see. Okay, I'll see you all in the next one.